What's up, guys? Today I'm going to take the engine out of my Trog car here. I'm going to give it back to Al at Go Devil Garage, and Al's going to go through the motor. Al built the motor, and it's just been in the car for a few years. It's got 3 Race of Gentlemen's on it. The first year it was on alcohol, so I got DQ'd. The second year I won, and then COVID happened, so there was no event. And then the third year I just won again. The motor has never been out of the car. It's, you know, it's a race car motor. So it's really important that you go through everything and just make sure everything is up to par where it needs to be. So you can see I won 2019 and 2021. There was no 2020 because everybody stayed home. Except for me, I was at work every single day. Everybody talks about like, oh man, COVID, roads were clear, I stayed home. Remember when we stayed home and drank in the morning? I was at the shop every single day. And not because I don't care about people's health, but I don't know, I was safe in my shop with the same people I see every day. So thankfully we're an essential business, so we stayed open, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. Today I'm here to talk about taking the motor out of this thing and having it gone through and freshened up. So it's pretty exciting. The event is not until October. We are in January, February, March, April, May. It's June 14th today. So yeah, motor's coming out of it and it's going over to Al. So enjoy. Lost the ball. So this is a 286-inch flathead with Hillborn fuel injection. It's got a Vertex magneto. It has some janky little cooling system that really does nothing. So there's no water pumps on the engine. So there's no real cooling system other than this electric water pump, which runs off the same battery, which starts the motor. And because, you know, I run round after round, there's no like charger on it in between rounds. It's not like typical drag racing. Like you're out on the beach, so there's nowhere to like plug in, and there's nowhere to like do all the things that you would normally be able to do if you were at like a drag strip. You know, you can't like bring a generator out there. Like you gotta understand, like, you know, to get to the track is like, you know, 1/8 of a mile out onto the beach, and that's like the, you know, the pit area or whatever. So you really are limited to what you can have out there. So pretty much what I'm gonna do is I'm going to, I think, do a separate battery to just run the electric water pump. And then I'll probably put a radiator, I think, back here maybe, and then like louver it or something like that, just so I can have a bit of cooling, because when I go round after round, the thing typically heats up. With the tonneau cover on here, it does kind of get pretty warm. There's nowhere for the hot air to go, so it just stays hot in the engine compartment, and then this radiator doesn't really do a whole lot. So if I move the radiator outside so it can get some airflow, and then put another battery on it, hopefully that should do the trick. So that's, I think, what I'm gonna do for this upcoming year. That, and then maybe some different rear tires. You know, these tires work great. The car performs fantastic. I think what I'll probably do is get another set of tires and bring them out there onto the beach, and then make some test passes with the other tires and just see how it feels. A lot of the other guys I race against have run a little bit wider of a tire. They run the Firestone dirt track tires, where these are just Firestone 750 16s. These are like a street tire that I took like a hot heat knife and like cut grooves in them to kind of give it a little bit of, you know, a little bit more tread or whatever. You're allowed to do that. You're not allowed to like make like paddle tires or anything like that, or you can't run like, you know, dirt bike knobby tires or anything. The whole idea with the event is to, you know, to run the cars kind of how they would have been run in the, you know, mid to late 40s. So this is something that they would have done. So yeah, so I think I'm gonna change tires and to try something a little bit wider, mainly just because I think I'll get a little bit more traction, but I'm not sure, because with these tires, what the car does is it, you know, the amount of wheel spin that I get just works out really well with, you know, how the car hooks. So it's just a matter of trying the new stuff. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, then we'll go back to these. So anyways, check it out. I was just jacking this thing up so I could slide the front of the car around, and notice that, look at, Looks like I need a new kingpin, huh? That's not good. But I guess it doesn't really matter too much. I'm not driving it that often or that much on the street. I don't feel any slop on the beach. It's good to go.
Quite a bit of sand still on this.
What's that?
There's quite a bit of sand still on this thing.
Yeah, there is. It's probably not the best thing in the world, but that's why it's coming out. You're driving. Go right a bit. We got to kind of swing wide. Left, hard left. Man, this thing's hard to push. It keeps fighting you. It just wants to go straight.
We're in the race car, isn't it?
Yeah. So the motor's out of the car, and I'm taking another Model A engine over to Al for Mark Foley, actually. So it's just gonna bring it over there for a refresh and see what happens. Al said he wanted to check it out just because it's been together for a long time, and you know, there's probably a bit of sand that gets run through it. So just want to take it apart, see what it looks like. Hopefully it doesn't need anything, and just put it back together, or if it needs something, just obviously like for refresh stuff. I don't know where my keys are. You know, the rear end, this is like the first time I actually took it apart this way. When I built it, like I built the chassis and I put the motor in it, and then I put the body on top of that. So in my head, I was like, all right, well, when it comes, if I ever have to take it apart, this is how I'm gonna do it. But I never did it before. And you know, so the rear end and transmission kind of come out together like as one unit. So the rear end is welded, or there's little mounts that go to the frame itself, and then there's a transmission cross member for the transmission, and then obviously the front of the transmission bolts to the bell housing, and then the front of the motor has solid motor mounts which are also onto the frame. So that's how like the whole driveline mounts in the Model T frame rails. So it's a pretty simple setup, really. I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. You know, with how I have the suspension, I mean, there really is no suspension in the rear. That's sort of relied on what I run for tire pressure. And then the front suspension, like what I have for the front suspension, which is kind of just Model A stuff. And then also, like, I play with tire pressure based on, you know, like if the track is super bumpy or if it's super smooth. Obviously, if it's, you know, really smooth and nice, you know, I'll run a little bit more air pressure in the front. Sometimes if it gets really soft, I'll run a little bit less air pressure in the front, almost because I want the tire to be able to like move around in the sand. If you run too much pressure in the front and the sand is super soft, it acts like little pizza cutters almost, and that's almost not a good thing. So it's just, you know, I've done a million passes, maybe not a million, but I've done a lot of passes on the beach. So I've tried different things, you know, every round. My car seems to work. So, you know, I'm just, I run a lot of caster in the front, so the car wants to go straight. And that's my, my trick, other than the fact that, you know, I have this 286-inch flathead built by Al Clark. So anybody can do this. I've just been doing it right for longer than a lot of other people. My car is certainly not nice. There's a lot of cars out there that are much nicer than mine. But when it comes down to it, it's about going fast, not about looking good. So I was just saying to these guys, I'm like, man, you know, the Comforth stuff is so nice, and I really want to like redo this car, like, you know, media blast everything and make it all nice. And they were like, what do you want to do that for? Like, your car just works. That's a bunch of time you could be working on something else. So on one hand, it's like true, and you know, on the other hand, it's kind of like, well, I want nice stuff too. But really, when it comes down to it, my time is limited for everything else I'm into. So I'm gonna not refresh the car, and I'll just work on my drift car. And then you know, maybe years down the road, when I'm dead and gone, somebody will restore this car and make it super nice, kind of like the way a lot of guys are doing to, you know, old historic race cars from, you know, the 50s or whatever, 40s and 50s, or even before then, really. So that's that. Just heading over to Al's right now. I'm gonna drop this stuff off, come back and get to work. You want it on this side or the other side? Dipstick.
This side, because the stupid dipstick.
Dipstick, yeah. It's not.
Get the gasket off of here if we can. Ugh.
So this is Go Devil Garage, and this is Al Clark. This is where all the magic happens. All right, Al, let's walk around and you can point out all the things that, like, for instance, I know what this is. But what is that?
Well, this is a Kara Wilson line boring machine. It dates back to the 20s or 30s. It's for doing Model A, Model T engines, line boring the main bearings. There's different setup plates here depending on what engine you're doing.
Yep, so the block bolts to this.
Block bolts to this. These parts underneath here are the I guess you call them the bearing blocks that the boring bar runs through.
Yep.
And there's also
this spins
turns and feeds the bar through.
Line bores
it. Does, yeah. They also had equipment where you could bore the cylinders on this. The block would sit this way, and there's different fixturing to bore the cylinders and whatnot. But
cool.
I use a little bit more modern equipment for doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So this basically, it's like a, you know, you bore it's Babbitt bearings.
Yeah.
So that's over here. So.
Well, right now it's covered with junk. But yeah.
So this is what you put the Babbitt in, and then it basically heats up the Babbitt, so it's makes it molten.
Yeah,
right?
these are for melting the Babbitt. They're just, you know, that's the hardened Babbitt material in there.
So those are going to be bearings.
Yeah, someday. And basically, you set the block up on here, and there's different jigs for different engines. This is for doing Model A upper half bearings. There's also jigs for doing the caps.
So you set that in there, and then when you pour the Babbitt, that is sort of like the mold around it, right? Yeah. And then you bring it over to that and line bore it, but then you fit stuff by hand. So you do that, but then you still have to fit the bearing, fit the crank by hand, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of it's not very precise. It's close enough so I can get it within a thou or so of finish.
Yeah.
Well, I like to hand scrape the bearings to finish size once I bore them with that. You also have to put the oil grooves. There's tools for putting the oil grooves in the bearings and cutting the thrust face on the bearings for the crankshaft end thrust. So that's all part of it. It's kind of a labor-intensive thing, but
right. And there's not really a gauge or a specific, like, you know, you more or less put it together and turn the crank over by hand, and you feel it and know when it's right.
Yeah. You can, there's ways, I mean, you can check it with a dial bore gauge if you want to know the exact size, but the way, I have a kind of a weird way of doing it. I basically take like a piece of Scotch-Brite pad and scuff up the bearing, put it all together and torque it up and turn the crank, take it apart, and any spots that are high, you can see
it'll be,
they'll be rough and
like shiny, yeah.
So you can take your scraper, bearing scraper tool.
Yeah, so this is way different than building like a modern engine. Like, you know,
That's the bearing scraper. You get in there and you just scrape the high spots down with that and repeat the process until you get it right.
So you basically have to put the motor together and take it apart. Typically, how many times, I mean, you do this a lot more than most people, but like when you do an engine, how many times do you put it together, take it apart, scrape it, put it back together, scrape it? Like how many times typically on average?
Probably 2 or 3 times at least. It's usually like depending on how close I hit the mark with the line bore setup to begin with.
Yeah.
It could be like, 4 to 5 hour procedure to just hand scrape the bearings and fit the crank.
Right. So it's a lot longer than just getting some bearings and snapping them in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yep.
So then obviously Media Blaster. This is your hot tank?
Yeah, jet wash.
Jet wash.
It's basically just a big dishwasher. It gets the oil and grease and crap off. It doesn't do much for the rust and carbon.
Yeah. And
it gets the nasty stuff off.
Do you typically get mice?
Yes, I've just started noticing them lately, so I've been.
They like going in there?
No, it was one I caught this morning, so I got to rebait the trap and reset it.
Okay, and then, well, we'll just go. This is an assembly room.
Yeah, this is quote unquote clean room, assembly room. It's kind of a mess right now with junk, but.
So this is where all your assembly happens.
Yeah, more or less.
Cool.
Right now, it's just a place to put stuff for the moment. But,
okay, all right.
I have stuff for, equipment for balance. This is what I use with the balancing setup, to weigh the rods and pistons and everything. Mm-hmm. And
do you do that on all the motors that you build usually? Okay.
Yeah, except for Model Ts. Model Ts turn so slow, and they're just.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Okay. And what's under here?
That's a valve spring tester.
Okay.
When I'm assembling V8s, you kind of want to know, especially performance ones, you kind of want to know where your valve spring pressure's at.
Okay, so basically this is just like a little press.
Yeah.
And you pull that down and that gives you like the different...
it'll give you the pounds at a certain valve installed height on the spring.
Do you so you try to do like a more or less matched valve spring, or you just make sure that they're within, what's like the tolerance, or is there?
Yeah, well, you want to get it as close as you can. For typical street flathead, I'd probably shoot for like 70 pounds on the seat. Mm-hmm. The stock ones run about 40. So I try to run 70, 75 pounds on the seat for a performance engine.
And then how do you do that? Just by finding a good set of valve springs, or is there?
Well, you want to start with an Iski or a Lincoln Zephyr valve spring. It's a stiffer spring,
okay,
less coils.
Okay.
And then you can fine tune it from there with either using shims, or there's offset valve keepers to move the spring retainer up or down,
okay,
one way or the other.
Cool.
So there's different ways of getting what you want. So
neat.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of cool. And then let's.
It's kind of in pieces at the moment, but all these components down here, that's a quick way line boring setup. So I would use that on anything other than a Model A, like a flathead V8 or what have you. Anything oddball.
Yeah.
That KR Wilson stand won't do.
Okay.
This will do. So. All
right. Neat. Don't let me forget, I have gaskets in my truck. So this for doing valves?
Yeah, this is for refacing them. You can also grind the stems on this end. It's pretty much standard stuff. It's older than dirt, but it gets the job done. It works well.
Okay, and this is for Model T oil
That's
pans.
a Model T oil pan alignment jig. Every shop needs one of those.
Fuck, how much does that thing weigh?
It's pretty soggy.
Jeez. Well, So the pans are usually warped or twisted.
Model T's, the transmission and engine all rest on the oil pan, and after 100 years worth of abuse and crashes and banging around, sometimes the oil pan will get bent out of shape.
Yeah.
And if that happens, your transmission will not align properly with the engine. So it's always important to make sure the oil pan is square and in alignment. Otherwise, you're going to have problems with broken crankshafts and misalignment issues, so on and so forth. So.
Okay, and then this is just a Carrier Wilson engine stand. It's a pretty awesome engine stand.
Gets a lot of use.
This is what?
That's just another one of those Carrier Wilson line board setups. This is a parts one. I don't really use this. I bought it as an extra.
Just for parts?
Yeah, I got to get it out of here one of these days.
Okay, all right.
Up space.
Standard Bridgeport.
Yeah, do a lot of things with that. Surface and modeling blocks, valve seats, that sort of thing on there. Making stuff when I need to. Connecting rod hone. For resizing connecting rods, wrist pin bushings, that sort of thing.
Cool. It seems like a awfully big piece of equipment. Do you use that often?
Yeah, whenever I'm doing connecting rods, you do the Babbitt Model A rods on it, but like flathead gate connecting rods, Chevy connect, whatever, modern style connecting rod. Yep. Like I said, the big mandrels fit the large ends, and I have smaller mandrels for doing the pin bushings. Cool.
What's this stuff?
Well, this is another interesting Model T tool. This is for recharging magnets for the magneto. So basically you hook a 12-volt battery to it, and you put, these are Model T magneto magnets.
Those are the magnets in the Model T.
Yeah, they're bolt to the flywheel and they spin around, and that's what gives you electricity for your ignition and whatnot.
And then, see, how do you magnetize them?
Well, you hook this to a battery, and you got to figure out which is north and which is south, and put it on the plate appropriately, and then you just hit the switch here a couple, 3 times momentarily, and it magnetizes it.
Sweet, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, like this. So this is the flywheel, and those are the, what are they? These are the magnets themselves.
And those are the coils.
Oh, so this is
pickup coils. So it's like basically like an alternator kind of.
Is this like a tester, or what is it?
Yeah, so it's an old tester for testing ignition coils for Model Ts.
Which are in a wood.
Doesn't work right now.
Which are in a wooden box, right?
Yeah. The original MSD distributor right there.
That's cool. This is what? I don't know what this is.
That's, well, underneath the box is a junk. That's a rotary broach. It's mainly for resurfacing cylinder heads. I'm able to do flathead blocks on it as well with a different clamping arrangement. But basically, it's just got a cutter head with a bunch of cutters and it spins, and the tail traverses and cuts the head. So
neat. And then this is for cylinders.
Yeah, this is a honing cabinet. After the cylinders are bored, you plunk it in there and you finish it to size. Different stones for different finishes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Big lathe. Hudson engine?
Yeah, anybody want a Hudson engine, let me know.
This thing is so cool. This was a possibility for that 32 Roadster. Remember we were thinking about in the 32 Roadster that we did?
Yeah.
You were like, you should use that Hudson engine.
Yeah.
Then we did a Hemi instead. But, so, Model T engine, Model A engine, small block Chevy. You do...
Yeah. Three Chevy for a customer.
Okay.
I think you know the guy.
Have you been...
I don't know why he hasn't been by to pick it up. It's been done for a while.
Okay. And then, so you pretty much do, well, everything early Ford, more or less. Rear ends.
Yeah, it's a 32 rear end for a customer.
Awesome. Well, that's pretty much the tour of Go Devil Garage. If you need anything done, Model A, Model T, anything V8, or even, more modern overhead valve stuff, Al's your guy. He can help you out. I'll put his contact info in the link below. So, hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys later. Bye. So, I forgot to mention, Al might be taking the Trog car out west. He's taking doing a family vacation, and he's thinking of taking the car, and we'll put Ryan, who's Al's son, we'll put Ryan in the car and let Ryan do some land speed racing with it, which is kind of like, I would love to do that, but Ryan is would be a great pilot, and I think it's going to be cool. So hopefully that'll work out. Al's going to obviously go through the motor. He said there's a few things that he wants to do. We might possibly run it on E85, and then he's going to do some head work and stuff like that. Just some things that he wasn't really happy about when the engine first got put together. So yeah, we'll see if it works out and they're able to take it out west and see what the car can do, you know, at the top of third gear. Anyways, again, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys later.